The Carlson Combo is a combination stitch that uses 4 rows of different stitches to make an intricate pattern. This video gives complete instructions for these rows, start to finish. I also have videos on each separate part if you'd like to watch it that way. Thanks for watching my channel, Linda's Creative Coiling. Hello, welcome to Linda's Creative Coiling. Today I'm going to demonstrate how to do the bottom half of a diamond. You might think this sounds kind of odd, but the reason I'm doing only the bottom half will be revealed in videos yet to come. So the way I'm doing this is I'm using waxed linen thread, it's 4 ply, and I think that this is robin's egg blue, and I did a wrapped row in slate gray. My stitches in the rows previously were wider, and I did the wrapped row mostly so that I could adjust my stitch width, because the next part that I'm going to be doing, I want my stitches closer together. So I'm stitching about 3/8 of an inch apart, and I'm trying to keep them very even. And I want the walls of my basket to start angling up just a little. So I will be stitching into this wrapped row at a slight angle. I go over my thread because I don't want to get a knot. Go over my thread. I turn the basket over and I'm going to go under just about 2 stitches, 2 threads. So I go in on the left, under just a couple threads at just a slight angle. My darning needle is angled just slightly, so my row doesn't go straight out. It will go at a slight angle. I've got kind of a long thread here. I pull that very tight. I want to pull it tight so that I don't get gaps between my rows. Take another stitch. Go under a couple threads, go from the left, come out on the right, pull my thread. Need to feed my coil. I'll get a pine needle, insert it clear down deep into, because I don't want this head to show. Insert it clear down deep into the center of that coil. Push it as far as I can. Twist my gauge so it gets very flat. Under a couple threads. And I stitch out here to the end. Okay, about 2 more. I need to gauge this so that I end in the right place. I have just a little bit, so I need to really space my stitches carefully so that they can be pretty even. Pull it tight, tight, tight. I'm going to add another pine needle into the center, way down into the center. Okay, now I'm going to take a stitch, kind of splitting the distance there. Take that stitch, splitting that distance. And that's good for that. I'm going to take one more stitch. For this one, I'm going to pierce the pine needles. I'm going to go under that, down about a third, in on the left, and come out on the right. This next part is really just a back stitch, and the back stitch is useful at the end of a basket or for decorative. It's also a big part of this half, the bottom half of the diamond stitch. What I'm going to do is turn my basket over, and I'm going to go in exactly into the same hole with that previous stitch. I'm going to go exactly into that hole and come out in the front exactly where that thread is. and that makes an X, and I want to pay real close attention to where that X is on my coil so that my next row on top of that gets at the right angle where that should be. Lost my needle. Pull it up again, no knots. Okay, so I do another stitch. I turn it over. I insert my darning needle right smack dab in the middle of that stitch, right exactly where that was. And I come out in the front. Sometimes you have to poke around a little. I'm trying not to split that thread. Come out and do a little. Pull it tight. And watch where my X is. I'm forming an X. And I want to watch where that is, because if it's too far out, my rows will go out. If it's too far up on my coil, my rows will come up too much for the next row. I'll do one more. Go in to that same spot where that thread is. I come out in the front. Oh, I missed it. Go in. Come out in the front. I have to look closely. When I work upstairs, I have a really good light that I shine on it, an OT light that I work with. Helps me see better. So you can see my X's forming along my row, and I'm going to just continue back stitching all the way around, and that will form the bottom half of my diamond stitch. You can kind of see the diamond forming right there. So that's the bottom half of our diamond stitch, and we'll continue this instruction with our next video. Pieces of the Carlson Combo stitch, and you can see that I've just finished my back stitch row, and my thread is down here at the bottom of this row in the front, and I need to get this thread to be in the back right here by this X. So I can do a couple things. I can try and manipulate the thread through the coil to get it up there, or I can give up and tie on a new thread. I'm going to try and manipulate it. What I'm going to do is go in on the right hand side of that thread right there. Go in on the right, and I'm going to try and come out in the back right in where that other thread is attached, right there. Can you see that right there? I'm going to have to use my pliers to pull that through, I'm sure. Pull that through. And bring that up, and that should put my thread in the right position now where I can start my straight is really the anchor of this whole thing. And I want to thank my friend Betty. We worked together to figure out how to do this stitch so that the straight stitches actually go straight up and down instead of being angled across. So the way you do this is I need to go across, I need to go in below the X right there. My needle's going in right below that X, and I'm going to come out in the next X in the front. My needle now is going across those two X's. I'm going to use my pliers again. I'm going to pull that out, and go across there and pull that tight. Now, I'll go over the top, and I'll come in exactly the same spot. I'll go in and come out in exactly the same spot where that thread is. I'm right in that same hole. I'm going to pull that tight and make a loop over the top. Make a loop over the top. I'm going to have to catch this straight stitch that goes there when I come back around. This is the trick right here. So I go in that exact same hole, and I'm going to keep it kind of to the right side of that thread. And I'm going to come out in the front, in the middle of that V. Now I pull it up, and I want it to cross on the right hand side of that thread. I want to cross over on the right hand side, so it kind of crisscrosses. And pull it tight, so it's kind of crisscrossed. So then they stay together. They stay right there together. Then I can go over the top again, go over the top, come out in the middle of that V, come out in the middle of that X, in that same hole, come out there, make my first loop across there, make my first loop. Now I go over the top and I come in kind of on the right hand side, on the right hand side of that thread. I come out and I come across to my next X, and come out in the middle. And I want my thread to go on the right hand side of that thread so that they stay right together. And I can kind of adjust them so that they're absolutely straight up and down. You can see my straight stitches are developing. They kind of cross over in the back, but that's what you want them to do so that they stay right together. The straight stitch, one trick that I find is that I need to pull hard on my thread right there so that that stays over to the right. When I go over the top and I come into the middle of that X, that under the X, I want my thread to come out in the front on the right hand side of that thread. So I have to pull real hard, pull it hard over to the left. Then it's going over the top, pull it through, pull it through. Now I can go over the top on the right hand side, turn it over, go in on the right hand side of that in the same hole where it came out, go in that same hole, come out on the front. I go through the coil. I go through the coil so that that thread is hidden going across there. Go through the coil and come out in the middle of that V, which is under the top part of the X. And pull it tight and keep it there to the right. Okay. Pull it hard to the left. I don't know if you can see how hard I'm pulling on that. It takes some muscle. And come out right there in the same hole, but kind of to the right side of that thread. Pull my needle out, pull my thread tight. Okay, now I'm here at the end. I am going to add another pine needle because my gauge is getting loose. Add another pine needle. Okay, now I'm here at the end. Now I have to fill in another straight stitch right there. So what I'm going to do, I hope, is to there. I need to come down to the row below inside that V. Need to come down there inside that V. Pull it out. I'm going to keep this thread to the right. Keep that thread to the right. Now I can go between the coils. I'm going to go between the coils. I'm going to go between the coils. need to go down here to connect so that that's connecting. I need to come out up here, right there. Can't pull on that. Pull that through. Okay, now I can go between the coils again. Go between the coils again so that I've got my 2 threads, and now I can go in right there and come out over here. Come out over here where that straight stitch already is. It's hard to poke around. I want it to be exactly there. Need my pliers again. I'm gonna pull. Keep that over there to the right and pull it tight. Now I've filled in that missing straight stitch. My thread's over here in the front, which is in exactly the wrong position to start my next row, but I will show that in the next video, how I get that started. So that's the straight stitch. That's the second row of the Carlson Combo. Creative coiling. I've been working on the Carlson Combo stitch, and I just finished row 2, which was the straight stitch. I have my half a diamond stitch. I did the straight stitch. Now I'm ready for the tie stitch row, which is row 3. To do the tie stitch, your thread has to be coming from the back of your basket. You can see when I ended this straight stitch, my thread was right here in front, which won't work. Now to get it to the back, I could go in and out and back and forth and around, but that can be very stressful, and I don't see any need to do that. So I'm just going to use the hidden knot method and tie on a new thread. Then I'll be where I need to go. So to get it to the back, I'm at the very bottom of my last straight stitch back. So I'm going to go in right there, come out in the back. And just pull that in till it disappears. I can't pull very hard because it's not anchored through much. It's kind of just between those coils. Okay, go across the back. It's angled across that row. I go in on the left side of that straight stitch, come out in the front on the left side of that straight stitch, come out on the left. I go in on the back on the right side, and come out on the front on the right side. Now I can let go of that and pull it tight as soon as that's in the second time. Okay, then I go pull it tight, go up over the top and swing it around, make my tie. Go in right on the right side of the straight stitch, come out on the right side, and that makes the tie. Now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this old thread. I'm going to bury that thread, so I'm going to go in. I always like to go across, and you can see where that is. It's right there. So I'm going to go in on the right-hand side of that, and I'm going to go down to somewhere in the back, across some threads. I'm going to use my pliers, pull that through, and that buries that thread. Pull it tight. Pull it tight. Now I can snip it off, pull it taut, snip it off. This is why you want to have very pointed, sharp scissors. Okay, now that thread's gone, it's disappeared. Now I can continue with my tie stitch. So I go across the back at an angle. I've got an angle there. I go in on the left side of the tie stitch, and I come out on the right side of the tie stitch, come out on the Nope, that's the left. Come out on the left. The other right, right. That's the left and left. Now I go in on the right and come out on the right. Now I can pull that through. Pull it. Pull it in. Go up over the top one more time. Pull it tight and make my tie. Now you can see why that straight stitch was so important, because it's forming the base of my tie stitch. And you can see what's developing with the diamond and the open stitches. Let me do one more since I was messing up my directions. I hold that across. I go in on the left. Go in on the left between the coils. I come out on the left between the coils. Make the loop around my finger. Go in on the right. Go in on the right and come out on the right. Now I can let go, pull it tight so the loop is gone. Pull it tight. Over the top, swing it around. Go in on the right. Come out on the right. Make my tie. There's the little tie. There are the angle pieces. And there I'm working on the third row of the Carlson Combo. Working on the Carlson Combo stitch, and you can see that I just finished my tie stitch row. So what I need to do now is transition into the last row of this combination, which is the top half of my diamond stitch. Where I ended after my tie stitch, my thread is over here, and I need to get it around to the front so I can start my diamond stitch. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and finish that across there so I have another angled thread, just like I was doing on my tie stitch. I'm going to go into that stitch right there, into that tie, and I'm going to come out in the front. I want to be up there. I want to be there, right there at the top of that stitch, so that I'll be in position to go into my diamond. So I just take that stitch, forms that angle across there, and now my thread is right there ready to go. So I can start doing the top of my diamond stitch. I'll go in under those two threads that were on my tie stitch from the back to the front. Go in there. And there's my first angle. Go over the top. Come under just those two threads, under those two threads, trying not to pierce pine needles. And I start doing my swirling basic stitch to go around for the top half of my diamond stitch. So that's how you transition from the tie stitch into the fourth row of the Carlson Combo. Coiling. I'm finishing up my Carlson Combo, and I'm right at the end of my swirling basic stitch. I'm attaching my swirling basic onto my tie stitch row, and I'm just about at the end of that row. So I have just a couple more stitches to do. I'm gonna move my gauge a little bit. I'm gonna turn my basket over, and I'm gonna go in under those threads, those two threads from my tie stitch. Go in under there and come out in the front. Come out in the front. Oops, it's a long thread. And pull it tight. Got my last one right here. I turn it over. I go in from the back. I go under just those two threads. Go under those two threads. Oop, I don't want to get in that pine needle. Come out in the front. And I pull it out and pull that real tight. You want it to be very, very tight. Okay, now I can turn around and go backwards, and that will make my X's, and it will finish my Carlson combo. So I go in, I turn it over again, and I go in right in that spot, right there where that stitch came out. I go right in there. I come out in the front, right exactly on that, where that stitch is. Come out right there. I want it to be over there on the right. Come out there. I can pull it tight. Okay. I can adjust that and make sure I pull it tight. Okay, I can turn it over again. I can go in that spot, right there where that thread is. Come out in the front, right there where that stitch is. Pull it tight, pull it through, pull it through, pull it tight. I'll do one more. Sometimes it's hard to get it in exactly the right spot. Go in there. Come out there. Now you can see there I have my completed Carlson combo. I've got the bottom half of my diamond. Now I have the top half of my diamond. In between, I've got the tie stitch in that hidden row that was the straight stitch. It makes a real pretty stitch. On the back, you've got you can see where the tie stitch is. It's a very pretty stitch. Easy to use and lots of fun. It's fun to mix colors sometimes too. What I'm going to do now is just continue all the way around, making the top half of this diamond until I get to the end, and then I'll connect. So there you have it, the Carlson combo. Thanks for watching. Hope I see you again soon.
Hi, I'm Linda. Thanks for watching my video. I hope you liked it. If you would like to subscribe to my channel, you can click the subscribe button and ring the bell, and that way you'll be notified next time I post a new video. Hope to see you soon. Thanks a lot.